Joseph Benedict Greenhut was born in Teinitz, Austria in 1843. His parents immigrated to the United States in 1851, settling in Chicago. At the age of 12, he worked his way to Mobile, Alabama, where he was employed in a tinsmith shop. He returned to Chicago and enlisted in the 12th Illinois Infantry. After being wounded at the Battle of Camp Donelson, he returned to take part in the Battle of Gettysburg. It was during these Civil War days that he developed his friendly relationship with the later-to-be President McKinley. The captain erected this grand monument in tribute to the Civil War veterans. Throughout his life, Captain Greenhut continued his interest in the affairs of Civil War veterans. In 1866, Captain Joseph Greenhut and Clara Wolfner of Chicago were married. After the Chicago fire of 1872, the family moved to Peoria, Illinois. That's where they raised their children, Nelson, Benedict, and Fanny Veronica. The engagement of Benedict J. Greenhut and Minnie Gottlieb was announced October 24th, 1891, at the silver wedding celebration of the groom-to-be's parents, Captain and Mrs. Joseph B. Greenhut, at their house, 143 High Street, in Peoria, Illinois. Mrs. Gottlieb's father and the captain's mother were cousins, and both came from Bohemia. The couple were acquainted many years before becoming engaged. Here is Minnie's mother, Rosie Gottlieb. Captain Greenhut was so busy as president of the Distillers and Cattle Feeders Trust that he asked his son to help him as private secretary. Consequently, the groom-to-be didn't have the opportunity of learning the entire practical part of the distillery business. The only manual work he had done was in and about the Great Western Distilling Company, assisting in the warehouse. Benedict had a sister, Fanny, and he also had a brother, Nelson. On March 15th, 1892, Benedict J. Greenhut and Minnie Gottlieb of Chicago were married at the Standard Club in that city and went to live in Peoria. Clara, the first child, was born on July 26, 1893. Later, she was joined by a sister, Rose, and then by a brother, Joseph. Here are Benedict and Minnie that same year, 1895. In 1896, Captain Joseph Greenhut bought an interest in the Siegel Cooper Company, which had a large store between 18th and 19th Streets on the east side of 6th Avenue. The slogan of the Siegel Cooper store was "Meet me at the fountain." Benedict became treasurer of the store, and the family moved to New York City. Some years later, the name was changed to the Greenhut Company, and the buildings on the west side of 6th Avenue were added. In World War I, the captain gave that huge building to the United States government for $1 a year, and it was the receiving hospital for every wounded soldier brought back to the U.S. Then they were sent to hospitals near their homes. And here is Benedict and Minnie enjoying dinner with Benedict's sister and brother, Fanny and Nelson. And here are the captain and Clara at the turn of the century. And at the time of their 15th wedding anniversary, here are Benedict and Minnie. The year was 1908. The occasion was Benedict's induction into the Lambs Club. He said it was one of the great moments in his life. The family joined Temple Emmanuel, and the children attended religious school. Clara recalled in Memories of Captain Greenhut, written in 1961, that her grandfather called for her every Sunday after religious school, and they walked back together to her home at 36 West 72nd Street. In 1903, Captain Greenhut went to Russia to investigate the Kishinev massacre as a representative of the United Hebrew Association of America. The captain at that time had a close friendship with the Secretary of State, John Hay, as well as a good friendship with President McKinley. In 1909, Captain Greenhut purchased Shadow Lawn in West End, New Jersey, for the family's summer home. In 1916, President Woodrow Wilson, then in the midst of the presidential campaign, used this house as a summer White House. The captain's granddaughter, Clara, recalled that during that time the family lived in a smaller house nearby, but were invited each Saturday to lunch at Shadow Lawn. Shadow Lawn later became part of Monmouth College in New Jersey. On October 24th, 1911, the captain and Clara celebrated their 45th wedding anniversary. Many distinguished guests were entertained at Sherry's Restaurant. In 1917, Mr. and Mrs. Benedict J. Greenhut celebrated their silver anniversary. The captain and Clara enjoyed their 50th wedding anniversary at Sherry's Restaurant on the 24th of October, 1916. The captain died in 1918, just after Armistice Day. The Loyal Legion, officers of the Civil War, conducted a military service. The captain was buried in the Green Hut Mausoleum in Salem Fields in Brooklyn. So far, we've talked about Captain and Clara Greenhut, and Benedict and Minnie Greenhut. Now we'd like to talk about Clara Greenhut, who married the son of Jacob and Jenny Rabinowitz. The marriage of Clara and Aaron sowed the seeds of the combination of the Russian and German Jewish heritages in the family. So first, let's watch Clara as she grows up. Jacob and Jenny Rabinowitz came to the United States determined to be good Americans. Jacob was born on Purim in 1858, near a city called Berdichev in the Ukraine. He arrived in this country in early March. The year is not certain, but it was in the 1880s. Jacob left his family at home until he could raise enough money to bring them here. Jenny was born in 1860 in a Ukrainian city named Chernigov, not too far from Kiev. Her parents were Morton and Naomi Brodin. Morton was a prosperous businessman. After a period of considerable hardship, Jacob learned the ins and outs of the paper box business, and economics as well. The boss earned $12 per week, and if Jacob earned that, he could send for his family. So Jacob became a boss, and 11 months later, Jenny and Aaron arrived. The Henry Street settlement and Lillian Wald played a large part in the lives of a family. Jacob polished his English and learned American history there. Jenny liked meeting the neighborhood women there, and the children took part in so many activities. Aaron was a member of the famous Heroes Club of the Settlement House and was a particular favorite of Miss Wald's. She saw to it that he met the many distinguished people that visited Henry Street or sat on their board. He got to know members of the Schiff, Morgenthau, Lehman, Lewison, and Warburg families. He met Theodore Roosevelt when Roosevelt was police commissioner of New York City. In his formative years, Aaron learned to be at ease in the company of the wealthy and the prominent. Aaron also met Clara through Lillian Wald. Jacob and Jenny had 4 children born in the USA: Rose, Felicia, Maurice, and Leon. Jacob was a founder of the Hebrew Immigration Aid Society, which helped thousands of Jewish immigrants enter and settle in the United States. At age 13, Aaron left school. He felt that he could learn faster on his own. On his own, mainly through reading, he became a well-educated man. Also at 13, Aaron went into business with his father. Aaron and Clara Rabinowitz raised 3 children. There was Betty, Susan, and Alan. Let's watch as their children grow up. There's Aaron on his favorite horse, Gallagher, on one of his regular rides in Central Park. It was about this time that he was appointed to the State Housing Board by Governor Al Smith. Aaron and Herbert H. Lehman built the housing development for the amalgamated clothing workers shown here on Grand Street. But he had achieved economic security. He was confronted by the Great Depression following the market crash of 1929. About this time, he turned over Spear and Company to his brothers, Maurice and Leon Spear. Mr. Fred F. French had died, and his widow would have none but him to entrust the disintegrating remains of the business her husband had built. He took charge of an enterprise in manifest dissolution surrounded by thousands of unhappy partners who had invested and apparently lost all their savings. While he was working to get the Fred F. French Company back on its feet, he was also working on the Baron D. Hirsch Fund, the Hebrew Orphan Asylum, and the Board of Trustees of Temple Emmanuel. Here is Clara in the uniform for Red Cross bandage making. This activity is just one of a long line of activities including the Women's City Club, the Council of Jewish Women, the Westport Garden Club, and many others. Nothing could match the zeal of Aaron in perpetuating the memory of Lillian Wald, under whose influence he had come as a young teenager, and whose role as surrogate mother was to enrich his life and his character. He single-handedly mounted a campaign and succeeded in causing Lillian Wald's admission to the most exclusive club in America, the Hall of Fame. The family's great delight was their home in Westport, Robin's Nest. Here is the family on their lawn in their home in Westport in the fall of 1946. Back in 1941, the family had to put up with a much more crowded situation. Here they are in their new apartment in Tudor City. Here in June of 1965 is Dr. Louis Finkelstein, Chancellor of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America, awarding to Aaron Rabinowitz